Warm welcome to you. It is the Joy Book Club one more time. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and it's a pleasure being here. You know, on this show, we bring books to life. We give them life. We give them wings so they can fly in your minds and in your hearts. And today, we're heading to Nigeria. We've done that quite a number of times. It's this wonderful book called Stay With Me. Stay With Me, yeah? Stay With Me on the show. But the title of the book is Stay With Me. It's by Ayobami Adebayo. And we'll be getting into it shortly. But let me introduce my guests to you before we even proceed from here. And I have two wonderful women joining the conversation. Marjorie Ode, it's your return.
Yeah.
You know, today I remember the very first time, many years ago on a different platform when I hosted you on a book show.
Yeah.
Look how far we've come.
I know. We should have a celebration.
We should. Tell us a bit about yourself, Marjorie.
Okay. So, you know, I love books. And as usual, I don't want to talk too much because of time. So,
what do you do?
I'm an administrative assistant.
Okay.
That's the way, yes. I'm an administrative assistant. I love to work with children. And I love reading.
Okay. And that's it about Marjorie. And then I have in this corner, I am pleased to present to you Angela Adams. And we're trying to get more and more younger people on board, much younger. And she's the first one to break the ice. Angela, good to have you on the show. How are you feeling?
Wow. I'm excited.
Okay, I'm going to put Angela on the spot because it's her first time on TV. So she's a bit, but you're going to fit right in, yeah?
Thank you.
Angela, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, as you already said, my name is Angela. I'm 18. I just completed high school at Galaxy International School. And I love books. I love to read so much. Some people think if you read for pleasure, it's a bit boring. But when I start a book, when I end, I just feel bored and I have to start another one again. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Good to have you join the conversation. And for those of you out there who are thinking, oh, I'm too young, you're never too young, yeah? Who knows? It could be you next. But before I get back to my guests and we get into the characters, the themes, and everything, here's my literary fun fact for you today. You know, I always give you something to think about, something fun in respect of books. And here is my fun fact for you today. We have the fear of heights, the fear of so many things, the fear of spiders and all of that. But have you ever wondered what the fear of running out of something to read is called? Yes, there is such a thing where people are afraid that they will run out of reading material. It is termed bibliophobia. Bibliophobia. And that's my literary fun fact for you today. I think some of my regulars on the show have this bug. But from there, we come into the studio now, and we're going to look at the author of the book and the blurb of the book. What does the book say? I'll see to Angela now. Give us the blurb.
All right. So, Yejide is hoping for a miracle for a child. It is all her husband wants, all her mother-in-law wants, and she has tried everything. But when her relatives insist upon a new wife, it is too much for Yejide to bear. Unraveling against the social and political turbulence of 1980s Nigeria, Stay With Me is a story of the fragility of married love, the undoing of family, the power of grief, and the all-consuming bonds of motherhood. It is a tale about the desperate attempt we make to save ourselves and those we love from heartbreak.
Wonderful book, I should say. Well, let's hear a bit about the author, Marjorie.
Okay. Ayobami Adebayo's stories have appeared in a number of magazines and anthologies, and one was highly commended in the 2009 Commonwealth Short Story Prize. She holds BA and MA degrees in literature in English from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ife. She also has an MA in creative writing from the University of East Anglia, where she was awarded an international bursary for creative writing. She has been the recipient of fellowships and residencies from Lady House, Hedgebrook, Cynthian Cultural Institute, Ebedi Hills, Oxbow School of Arts, and Siena Arts Institute. She was born in Lagos, Nigeria. In 2017, her debut novel, Stay With Me, was shortlisted for the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction.
All right. And for the sake of my Nigerian friends who will beat me up if we get this wrong. Obafemi Awolowo University.
Obafemi.
But let me come back to you, Marjorie. How did you find this book? Reading this book, what leapt at you? How did you find it?
I found myself crying a bit, especially getting to the end. Yes,
Okay.
I couldn't see
got
the book
emotional.
because my vision was blurred with tears, so I had to pause and then
Aw.
continue reading because it was.
You got teary.
Yeah, I did.
I see. And what made tears spring to your eyes? Was it Yejide? Was it?
Yes, because I think she had gone through a lot.
Right.
She had gone through a lot trying to prove herself to society, just to even realize that it was no fault of hers.
Yeah.
And even with the remedy that her husband brings in, causes her even more grief because he couldn't be transparent enough to let her know that there's a problem.
Yeah. How did you find this book, Angela?
Well, when I first read the blurb, I was like, okay, this is the typical, a couple can have a baby, they go to a hospital and that. But as I went through the book, I got so angry because some
Angry
of
at
the
who?
Akin,
Okay.
I was like, why wouldn't he say anything? Because the type of practices she had to go through, all the pressure and everything, I felt like if he could voice out at the beginning, it wouldn't be like that at the end of the story.
Yeah.
Yes. But when it got to the end, I was like, wow. After, even when I finished the book, I was like, oh my God, what did I just read?
What did
Yeah.
you just read? Okay.
Yeah.
So I can bet Akinyele is not one of your favorite characters.
Not at
one
all.
of your favorite.
No.
Who is your favorite character?
Iyabolu.
Iyabonu.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I like how she's so selfless. And even when, like, at the saloon, she was trying to tell Yejide that even despite all that, she should look forward and see towards the future and shouldn't worry about what has happened to her. She just keep on believing and trusting. She was so selfless. Like, she tried to make Yejide understand the societal cultures and everything. Yeah.
Okay. So that's something I'm sure you aspire to. You want
Yes.
to be selfless.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Who's your favorite character?
Iyabolu.
Hey, what's going on here? Y'all have one favorite character?
Yes.
That's
I
interesting.
think,
So why?
Yeah, I think she's like the author puts her there so that we see a contrast, or let's say that comparison, because you see, the main character Yejide is well educated. She has schooled. They have the money. They have the means. She's in a successful career that she chose for herself. She's doing something she's passionate about. And the only thing that is missing is that she can't have children. Or supposedly she can't have children. Whereas Iyabolu is an illiterate. She can't even read to save her life.
Yeah.
They are not so well to do. But then she has children scattered all over the place. You see, so I think that comparison and then her selflessness, like she mentioned, because irrespective of the fact that this woman is like on a higher pedestal, she's able to work with her, embrace her, and then support her,
Right.
you know, even till the very end.
Okay. So let's wrap up before we start reading this wonderful book. Let me just find out from you, which themes stuck with you? This time I'll start with you, Marjorie.
Okay, so the themes that stuck would be, it's a number of themes. I'll say marriage.
Briefly though.
Yes. Marriage and all that it comes with, including love, transparency, the trust, the hate, the betrayal, etc. And then we can also see politics and family because they are all intertwined.
Okay. For you, Angela, themes?
What I saw was polygamy, infertility, and the fact that she could bring she threw spots on sickle cell disease. There was
Yeah.
also something about lust, love, the betrayal, just as she said, and the political transitions throughout the setting of the story. That also stuck out to me. Yes.
Okay. I knew you guys would avoid this one, but there's also the theme of polygamy.
Yes,
mentioned
I
that.
mentioned
Oh, you
it.
mentioned
Yes,
it.
I did.
Okay, okay. Polygamy, because I see it running through. In
Throughout,
fact, that
yeah.
was, would I say that was the main problem that led to all of this? Because eventually, maybe they could have found a solution apart from, but once polygamy was in the picture,
Yeah.
then it meant that family would put pressure on Akinyele and
Yeah.
Akin would budge at some point.
Yeah.
But let's start from the very start. Jos, December 2008. This is chapter 1. I must leave the city today and come to you. My bags are packed and the empty rooms remind me that I should have left a week ago. Musa, my driver, has slept at the security guard's post every night since last Friday, waiting for me to wake him up at dawn so we can get out on time. But my bags still sit in the living room gathering dust. I have given most of what I acquired here, furniture, electronic devices, even house fittings, to the stylist who worked in my salon. So every night for a week now, I've tossed about on this bed without a television to shorten my insomniac hours. There's a house waiting for me in life, in Ife, right outside the university where you and I first met. I imagine it now, a house not unlike this one. It's many rooms, designed to nurture a big family, man, wife, and many children. I was supposed to leave a day after my hairdryers were taken down. The plan was to spend a week setting up my new salon and furnishing the house. I wanted my life in place before seeing you again. It's not that I have become attached to this place. I will not miss the few friends I made, the people who do not know the woman I was before I came here, the men who over the years have thought they were in love with me. Once I leave, I probably won't even remember the one who asked me to be his wife. Nobody here knows I am still married to you. I only tell them a slice of the story. I was barren, and my husband took another wife. No one has ever probed further, so I've never told them about my children. If you read on, it goes to talk about her 17 bags and eventually just settling on a few.
Yeah.
But Angela, how did you find the start to the story? For me, it struck me, okay, so who's this woman and what precipitated her becoming a second wife? But what thoughts were running through your mind when you started reading?
When I first read the first line that said, I must leave the city today and come to you, I was like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? And then I like how at the beginning of the story, it's literally, the author makes it known as that she's trying to tell the story from the end to the beginning. So throughout this first chapter, I was like, oh, okay, this is what happened. This is what it led to and all that. I really loved how she put everything in the first chapter. It makes you more intrigued and like the suspense it creates.
What did you make of Yejide in the first chapter?
To be very honest, I really thought it was her fault. Yeah. Like,
What?
I thought she probably left or she was tired. Like they probably sacked there or something. From looking at the first chapter of the story, maybe she did something to her husband. That's what made me think. But then as I went and I was like, oh, wow, this is taking a whole turn. Yeah.
Okay. I want you to do some reading for me before I come to Marjorie, and you can add your thoughts on the first bit as well. Angela, take us to page 10. Start from the second paragraph to the end. So I did not notice her at first. Start from there.
Okay. I did not notice her at first, even though she was perched on the edge of Iya Martha's chair. She was fair, pale yellow like the inside of an unripe mango. Her thin lips were covered with blood-red lipstick. I leaned towards my husband. His body felt stiff, and he did not put his arms around me and pull me close. I tried to figure out where the yellow woman had come from, wondering for a wild minute if Iya Martha had kept her hidden under her wrapper when she came in. Our people say that when a man has a possession and it becomes two, he does not become angry, right? Baba Lola said. I nodded and smiled. Well, our wife, this is your new wife. It is one child that calls another one into this world. Who knows? The king in heaven may answer your prayers because of this wife. Once she gets pregnant and has a child, we are sure you will have one too, Baba Lola said. Iya Martha nodded her agreement. Yejide, my daughter, we have thought about and slept on this issue many times. Your husband's people and me, and your other mothers. I shut my eyes. I was about to wake up from the trance. When I opened my eyes, the mango yellow woman was still there. A little blurry, but still there. I was dazed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
The mango yellow lady, I mean, that got me like the insides of a mango or a pawpaw or something of the sort. But right from where she left off, she talks about Yejide and the introduction. I don't know whether you have anything on the introduction, but then we get a feel of Funmi, who is supposed to be a second wife to Akinyele. Your reflections.
So now that I'm reading we are reviewing this whole thing. I'm realizing how silly Akin was from the beginning. But then, let's talk about Funmi, since she's the one who is up now. So she's been brought in as a second wife and can see that the family really thought about this. Okay, Yejide is dark in complexion, we read. So they are like, okay, let's bring him a fair yellow woman who dresses, and Yejide is not so much of a makeup person. So they brought...
Though she's a hairdresser and everything,
Exactly.
she's not so keen on that.
Yes, and I think that they also did that so that they know that Akin is not so in on getting a second wife. So let's get him someone who is very attractive, or so that maybe that would make him yield to the suggestion that we are having. And in the first chapter, because you asked, I realized that what actually also drew my attention was the fact that she was writing in the present tense. So it made you know that she's going somewhere.
There was a backstory.
Yes, and why is she giving us that? That was a very creative style that makes you even want to read more, to go like, okay, what's happening?
Okay. And then from there, when everything is said and done, so her other mother, together with Babalola and co, are there.
Yes.
And she knew immediately they showed up that there was something amiss. What she did not know was that her husband was he was in the know.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
So she would ask him on page 17, I will call you what I want. At least you are still my husband. But maybe you are not my husband again. Did I miss that news too? Should I switch on the radio or is it on television? And she had been asking. In fact, if you go to I should turn to page 13, in fact. I skipped a bit ahead. She would be asking there, Akin, you knew about this? I mean, you can almost feel her rage when she's asking him, Akin, you knew about this? Because they had some sort of arrangement where they will come every month or so, but they would be met. They know how to deal with them. In fact, it was her idea to allow them to be coming, right? But then this time, Akinyele had not told her that they were going to come, and she was furious. And then she gets to find out that, oh, okay.
And they even come with news.
So you've taken a second wife.
And they come with news. It wasn't like the usual visits that they come and then she has to submit and say sorry to her husband because she's not been able to have a child. This time they come with the wife. Not like a woman we are presenting for consideration, but
she's married.
She's married. She's married to my husband.
Exactly.
I mean, on a more serious note, putting yourself in her shoes, how would you have reacted? the makes my heart beat. Started throwing things around her.
Yes, I mean, even if a woman agrees to polygamy, I feel like she would want to know when the husband is taking that step. I should think so, because even with the Muslims, I think there are some certain rights that you even do for the wife before you bring in another woman.
Your wife must know. She must be in the know.
Yes, she has to be in the know that this what you have to compensate her. You see, so you just don't bring in somebody into the house and just say, this is your wife. When did you get married to her?
Exactly.
And those were some of the questions on her mind.
Yeah.
But let's do a flashback. Because we then go back. Marjorie, I want you to read just a little bit of page 20 for me. Because you would see Akin going back and reflecting on how he met Yejide.
Okay.
Would you like to do us the honors? Page 20.
I will, yes. Yejide was created on a Saturday when God had ample time to paint her a perfect ebony. No doubt about this. The finished work is living proof. The first time I saw her, I wanted to touch her jeans-clad knee. Tell her there and then, my name is Akin Ajayi. I'm going to marry you. She was effortlessly elegant. Only girl on the row who didn't slouch, held her chin up, didn't bend sideways to lean on the orange armrest. She sat straight, shoulders squared, hands linked, and held in front of her bare midriff. I couldn't believe I hadn't noticed her in the ticket queue downstairs. She glanced to her left some minutes before the lights went out. Our eyes met. She didn't look away like I expected, and I straightened up under her gaze. She looked me up and down, sized me up. It was not enough that she smiled at me before turning to face the big cinema screen. I wanted more. she seemed unaware of her effects.
Okay, let's end there. The scene at the cinema is pretty interesting,
Yeah.
Angela, because there was also Bisade right there, and that was Akin's girlfriend at the time. I mean, do you remember how he broke up with her?
He just told her, like, look, I'm done with
I
you.
mean, I was heartbroken. I was like,
Fear men. In fact,
fear women too.
This whole book is fear men.
no. This is not fear men, because I have read instances and seen instances of women. I mean, women can do this easier, but I read it and I was like, I can't, like, seriously.
Nothing you can say will convince me. This
Do
book,
you want to describe what happened? Describe to us what happened.
So after he sees this lady, he has gone to the cinema with his girlfriend to watch a movie. And he spotted a girl sitting, like, his girlfriend is in between.
So
Yeah.
Yejide was sitting like a little,
After,
just a seat
after the
after
girlfriend.
his girlfriend. Beside
Yes,
him.
and he just got captivated by the beauty or what, just decided. And I wonder how do you
Remember
take
what
a
he
decision?
said? God took his time
Yes.
when creating her on that Saturday.
Yes, it was
Ebony.
oh, guys.
I mean, but can you even imagine it? Like, can you imagine what that means?
And then right after, you haven't even proposed to the girl to know whether she would accept you or not. You just go and break up with your girlfriend and just go
Like,
chasing
we
her.
are told Bisade was like, her mouth, her eyes were open.
And he didn't even have the courtesy to escort her to the.
He said she could find her way
Way
to her
home.
home.
Yes, that's what.
And then he goes following, what do you call it? Yejide. I mean, that portion, as the Americans would say, it got me shook. I was shaken. I was like, hey.
In fact, this is like Fear Men Pro Max.
Hey, the way you are taking us on at this point. But anyway, you're still live on the Joy Book Club with yours truly. And I, together with my guests, Marjorie and Angela, we are discussing Stay With Me, a piece by Ayobami Adebayo. And it's getting even more interesting. But I would like to fast forward now, Angela, and take us to that point where, okay, Funmi is in their lives anyway. But Funmi from the start appears to be pretty reasonable. Oh, I'll allow you, I will not be in the house with you and your wife, I will be somewhere else. But then all of a sudden, she starts growing wings. And describe for us the scene at the salon. Do you remember?
Yes, I do. I do.
So what happens?
So she comes to the saloon, and something that struck out to me was how Yejide described her fingernails. So she quoted, her nails were painted hibiscus red, like the matching marks Akin and I used to drink coffee that morning. So you could see she was really studying her, like, oh, so this is the wife. Everything about her was like, oh, wow, come on. So at that scene...
At that point, she realized she was actually beautiful.
Yes,
Funmi was beautiful.
yes. So I feel like at that point, if I were to put myself in her shoes, I'll feel like I'm not enough. That's why Funmi comes into the marriage. So later we go to the saloon. She goes to her and she's asking her questions. Yejide is telling her to please leave. But then I feel like she's trying to provoke her into asking her so many questions. Like, I didn't understand what was going on. It's like she wanted to put in a fight, but Yejide was not up for it, and she tells her to leave. It really caught me.
And it was the parting shots when Yejide was leaving. I don't know whether you can find that. Let me see whether I can find it. The parting shots, that was where the real issue was, because then she doesn't just leave.
She touches on her barrenness.
Oh, yeah. She touches on it. Are you there?
I'm not there.
Which one of you is there? Would you like to read for us? I believe it's, let me just see whether I can find the page. Okay, as and when we find it, I'll just get down to it. It's just skipped me. But that was where you realized that there was going to be trouble
I think
between
that's his page.
the two of them.
I think
Okay,
that's his
yeah,
page
62 to
38.
64 thereabouts, right? Have you found it?
I think it's a 38.
Yes.
38, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's get there very quickly.
That's page 38.
Okay, so we can start from, Yejide had been talking about the fact that when Funmi said she would come by the following day, she said some of us have jobs
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can read from 38. Our mother, there is no need for all this. Oh, which one of you would take that?
I will.
Okay, go ahead.
Our mother, there is no need for all of this. We have to be friends, at least for the sake of the children we will have. She went on her knees again.
The impudence. The
I
impudence
know.
of food.
And the
drama.
acting, yeah. I know people say you are barren, but there's nothing God cannot do.
Shots fired. Someone is bleeding.
And
Call
she
911.
said- And she had the impudence to add, I know that once I conceive, your own womb too will be open. If you say I should not come here, I will not come. But I want you to know that this bitterness can be one of the things causing the barrenness. So goodbye, ma.
Okay, so this one we have to we're in Ghana, so 191.
Wow.
Like the impunity, the impudence. Like, can you imagine this? I will not come, but I want you to know that this bitterness can be one of the things causing this barrenness.
Can you imagine?
I mean, but Yejide did well.
Yes.
Even waiting to the point where the girl was turning and
Yeah,
going
exactly.
before she held her,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Charlie, if I were that woman, you would have been dead.
But I think she knew what she was doing, and Funme knew what she was doing,
yes.
because
Oh, she did.
she was trying to get the man's attention. And usually when it comes to such, what I've realized, when it comes to such competition, when involving a side chick and the main chick, if you, the woman, go and attack the side chick, you are pushing the man towards the side chick, because he will now feel like, oh, sorry, I'm sorry for what she did to you and everything, and you are just...
And Yejide started realizing that.
Yes.
So she started toning down.
Exactly.
And I don't know what your reaction would be. Of course, then there would be Babangida's coup as well. But then there was also the point, Angela, where, is it Mrs. Adeolu gives some directions to Yejide, and she goes to see this man. Let's talk about this pastor and the goat scene. And you know that one,
God.
like we say in Pidgin,
Jaw-dropping miracle.
I weak. Tell us about that scene.
So they give directions to her. So the fact that she's supposed to hold a goat and walk up a whole mountain to go and see this pastor,
They are
Prophet
chanting,
Josiah.
they are dancing. At the point she's sitting,
She
must
She
nurse
gets
the
there
goat, caress
and
the
then
goat.
he's not even there, so she has to wait, and she's seeing them chant. Like, I felt like she was quite scared, because if you see somebody like, but then she had to do everything because they are putting so much pressure on her.
You remember the point where she felt like she could turn around, but at that point they would pounce on her.
Exactly,
So she just had to go along with it.
exactly. So she gets to the top of the mountain of jaw-dropping miracles, and she's so parched. She needs water. She's hungry, but she's still there because, like, she wants to make, like, the pressure that the society gives just to give birth. So after they tell her, oh, you have to nurse the goats.
That is where I was looking like,
Nurse
okay,
the
she
goat.
looks at the
You have
goat
to say it well.
and
She
like,
has to breastfeed the goats. Like,
Wow.
and you see me,
when you see, there is a thing about the Acts of the Apostles, is it Acts 3, and there's also about the bit about Hebrews and having faith, and Abraham being our father in faith. And faith, you can't really say you are going too far, but at a point you must ask yourself, how far
Is far.
too far? Because, and especially men, this, men would be like, you're always in church and you are doing this and all night and all that. At a point you are looking at Yejide and wondering, okay, you want a baby, but
Are you really
that's
doing
a goat,
this?
you know that, right?
Are you really doing this?
and is it even God? It's just God?
Because later, you would find out that Pastor, what's his name?
Josiah.
even? Josiah was actually sleeping
Yeah,
with Mrs.
yes.
Adeolu.
They
So
were
her
shagging.
pregnancies were not by her husband. It was by this pastor. So something anyway.
And you see, that's
But-
why you can't help not being so mad with Akin, because he knew
He still made her go through all these
all
things.
these things. Oh,
It was, and you see, at a point, when she was going back to thank Pastor Josiah,
Yeah.
just to hope that though her pregnancy was 11 months, something would happen. Then that is where she goes to see, because Josiah has put there that, oh, I'm out
He's
and
on
all
a
of
leave.
that. But he was there bonking someone's wife. Very confident.
shagging someone.
Well, I don't know.
I think
But-
he described his thin legs because he
His
had
thin
raised.
legs.
Yes, he had raised the rope up.
Marjorie, the things that get you. But it's something else that really got me laughing, both of you. I'll start with Angela on this. Can you imagine thieves putting you on red notice that, you know, we'll come and rob you on this date and that date. And like, we are serving notice. Get ready. Keep money on you because on that day we are coming to rob you. I was
Don't
like,
leave.
hey, these thieves.
They have
but
a
apparently
habit.
it's something that used to happen at a
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
in Nigeria.
Even in Ghana here, some years ago, I was with my auntie in Tema community too. And they received such a letter, but then, yeah, it never happened. But they got such a letter that thieves were going to come and rob them. So when I read that, I felt like, oh, probably it's not going to happen. So it did happen.
It did happen. Now, we're going to take a breather. Hold on to your thoughts, Angela. When we come back, we'll take our word in action and then continue. We're still reviewing this wonderful book, Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back on the Joy Book Club with me, Benjamin Akakpo, and we're reviewing Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. And it's time now for me to share with you my word in action for the day, and I've taken it from page 219. And it is, let me just get to it, constrictor. Constrictor, spelled C-O-N-S-T-R-I-C-T-O-R. Constrictor. That is used on page 219. And I read how it's used here. I didn't give a damn about how she felt that day. Rage coiled itself around my throat like a constrictor, made my eyes water, gave me a sharp pain in my chest each time I took a breath. But what is a constrictor? Let's just get a quick thought from the Cambridge Dictionary. So a constrictor is any snake that kills animals and birds by wrapping itself around them and crushing them. That is a constrictor. So you could talk about a boa constrictor, for example. But medically, it is used to refer to a muscle that makes a part of the body narrower. So you could say, for example, it involves a more extreme form of the laryngeal constrictor just described. So it could refer to a body part as well. But in most times, it has to do with the animals that constrict, like pythons. And that's our word in action for the day. Before we went on our break, Angela, you wanted to share your thoughts on, was it Yejide, or was it, what was it that you wanted
The
to
letter, the thieves sending the letter.
The thieves, yes, the thieves, indeed. I found that pretty interesting. Any thoughts on that before we move?
Yes. When I was reading and I got to this part, at that point, I wanted to know who is behind these letters, because what kind of audacity what kind of audacity would give you to go and send letters like, okay, I'm coming to rob your house, and don't move from the house because we'll still come.
And keep money in the house.
Exactly.
And these people were coming, and even more, I mean, the worst part for me, they would rape women and rape children. So you realize that the women in preparing, or, you know, they went to get sanitary pads and all of that, doused them with certain elements so that it would appear it was that time of the month.
And they told her it was
And one of them was saying, but wait, don't you think they will suspect something
if everybody
and every woman
is,
you know, at that time of the month?
Yeah.
I found it so, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was Iabolu's idea.
Yeah, but they thought it was stupid just because it's coming from here.
Yeah, you see, so it even tells you how they look down on her, how much they look down on her.
And it did happen. The robbers did come around.
They did.
The people had hired some police officers to protect them. The day the robbers came, the police officers were not there. And that was when they realized that, so the police officers were in cahoots with the robbers.
Exactly. Yes. And there's something interesting about the day the robbers came. You realize that when the robbers gave that warning shot, Akin flew and held onto his wife and left Funmi.
Yes.
And that was so, I think that's where it really sunk into her that this thing is not going anywhere. You are married to nothing, a husband who is not there. The man does not really love me. Because she asked him.
He jumped and covered Yejide.
Yes.
And he was like,
ignored her.
The point
and
when the gunshots were fired.
Yes, and she was just sitting there. She was like, you don't even care about me, do you?
I mean, she said it, and Opana didn't even budge, like, when feeling. But you know, I didn't find that surprising. Do you know why?
Why?
Look at what he did to Bisade. Like, he iced her out after the cinema.
It means
like
that the lady is the soul.
He really loved, you can tell
Yeah,
he really
yeah.
loved
He really loved
Yejide.
her. That's
He really loved her.
That's true.
But from there, we can also look at, definitely, we have to look at Yejide and Dotun. Because Dotun is Akinyele's brother.
Yeah.
And yet, you see, you wouldn't realize what was going on because initially you thought they were sneaking around. He was having an affair with Yejide. What exactly was going on, Marjorie?
Okay, so Dotun comes around on one of those days, his visits, because he's in Lagos, but then he comes around and comes to stay. And there's an exchange of sharp words between Akin and Yejide, which leaves her very broken and saddened because she felt really hurt that he would make a statement about her imaginary pregnancy, you know. And she, at that moment, she was vulnerable. So she leans into Dotun, who ends up sleeping with her. I mean, we all feel sad for her until we realize that it was actually an arranged thing between
Tell me
Akin and
about
the brother
it.
to come and get his wife pregnant.
So tell us about that arrangement, Angela, because the first time it does happen, Akinyele goes out, but comes back and something
Yes,
happens.
yes.
Just walk us through what happens.
So the plan was to leave them in the house. He goes to the bar and then he come back. But then as he's going, he's like, okay, no, let me come back. So he comes back, he opens the door and then he sees and he's like, he gets angry. He's just standing there for a moment, actually. He's just standing there and then he closes the door. But my problem is, why would you get angry if you actually planned it to happen with Yejide? What was your issue?
He was hoping it wouldn't happen, even though he had
So,
orchestrated
so if
it.
you turn to
Exactly.
page 218,
Exactly.
this is what it says. Long before I discussed it with him, this is Akin speaking. Long before I discussed it with him, I knew Dotun would agree to have sex with my wife. That's so wrong. Steeled myself ahead of time and assumed that when it eventually happened, the only emotion I had left would be pity for Yejide. She tried to act the part of a good in-law around my brother, but I knew she despised him and thought his wife was unfortunate to have married him. Once, she had let it slip that she could hardly believe that we were brothers. She didn't explain what that meant, but I knew she was trying to say she believed I was Jekyll and he was Hyde. I thought I'd pity her for the guilt she'd carry, feel sorry that she had to find comfort in a man she despised. Didn't imagine that Dotun's touch would ever become something she enjoyed. But that Saturday, instead of feeling any emotion for my wife, I wept because I felt humiliated, hopeless, angry. But now who caused him?
How can you even have such
Exactly.
expectations?
Exactly.
But you see, I'm sure he was thinking, okay, he had found out he was not potent. He was not able to produce a child. So he was thinking, okay, rather than let my wife go out, let my brother do this. And he convinced his brother. But you see, what's so wrong about this ménage à trois is that he knew his wife, his brother wanted his wife, though he was acting up. He also didn't expect that his wife would be that
Yes,
receptive. And
yes.
Angela, I guess that is what made him angry. It broke him.
Yeah. I think he was trying to say, oh, maybe when he gets there, the wife would have shunned him or something. But then he came to meet what he wanted. So I didn't think he had any
He came
right
to meet what he wanted.
Yes.
Because she actually enjoyed it, and I think
the thing
she there was a point that she even spoke about having multiple orgasms.
Yeah.
You know, she even, and I think that was like a first for her. That's why the conversation in the salon later on actually piqued her interest, and she wanted to ask certain questions she couldn't feel confident
Because she had
about
actually got married a
A
virgin,
virgin,
sort
yes.
of. She did not,
Yes.
she didn't know a man when she married Akinyele, so
But
she
then-
didn't know anything about.
But then, Benjamin, is it that
Whether it was good or
is it
not
that
so good?
is it that in those days there was no sex education in schools? Because I feel like if she had had some sex education in her school, she would have known what it's about. Because I got sex education in class 6, so yeah. So why won't she know that the man is supposed to have an erection? But then she asked him though, and he said there are different penises. Some penises get hard and others don't get hard. And I'm like,
And that was why I was wondering, okay,
what can I know.
But that was pretty interesting.
But
then,
I also wonder, Ben, last one. I wonder how then he was able to break her virginity, because if he couldn't get, well, I don't know, but
we'd have to ask Akin. We don't have the benefit of asking them. But there's also the odd bit. Yejide would go around pretending she was pregnant, or I think in her mind she felt she actually was convinced she was pregnant.
Yeah.
What didn't add up for me was the fact that while she wasn't pregnant, and two doctors would confirm, a female doctor, a male doctor, she was convinced, and her tummy was bulging. I was almost thinking, is this a case of fibroids or something? But no.
it was psychological.
It was psychological. Yeah. Somehow she thought it, and her stomach was bulging. Yeah, but then she would actually get pregnant after her escapades with Dotun. She would get pregnant with Dotun. She would get pregnant with Sesan as well. What?
No, if she got pregnant with Olamide, they had Olamide and then they had Sesan.
Exactly.
Both for Dotun.
No, that's what I mean. So she got pregnant, she had Olamide, who later would die.
Yeah.
And then she also had Sesan. What were these two children like? And Angela, I'll come to you on that. And what did it mean to Yejide to lose them? Well, at least she lost Olamide.
Yeah. So I felt she was more attached to Olamide than the other two children she later on came to have.
Olamide was a girl, right?
Yeah. Yes. So I felt that, I mean, that's your first child. After the whole phantom pregnancy, this is your first child. So she got everything for the child. She was trying to do everything for the child. Even if the child starts crying, like, she's so alert. So after the child dies, she's like her whole world comes crashing down. She doesn't know what to do. But then people try to tell her, oh, there's, you know, they have the funeral and everything. And they can't even be present at the funeral. And she wanted to be present at the funeral. So I think that whole escapade and everything just got to her. She felt so lonely and then distraught. So to me, that was the most heartbreaking part of the story, to lose her first child that she really wanted to have. Yeah.
But then later we'll find out part of what genetically is leading to this. We'll get to that shortly. But I want us to read pages 184 and 185. I'll just go there quickly because I want to punch into certain places, not read the whole thing. So Akinyele is with a doctor now. I will get straight to the point, sir. I think you need to have a discussion with your madam. He took off his glasses and began to clean the lenses with a handkerchief. There were some discrepancies in the results of the genotype test we conducted for your son. So let me start by explaining how sickle cell disease works. It's an inherited disorder, and you need two parents who have at least one sickle cell gene before a child can get it. So for instance, your madam is AS, and that means she has the sickle cell gene, but because she has just one of the genes, she doesn't have the disease, but is a carrier. And that means she can pass on the gene to her children, but her children can only have the sickle cell disease if the other parent, the man, is also a carrier. So you need two people with the AS genotype, or one with the AS genotype and the other with the SS genotype, before the possibility of even having a child who is SS arises. Does that make any sense? I nodded. Now, here is the discrepancy I was talking about. I took a look at your files after Sesan's results came in from the lab, and here is what I discovered. Your madam is the only one with the AS genotype, sir. You are AA, which means that your child could never have sickle cell disease. Sir, I am telling you this as a man to another man, and because you were so helpful to me when I came in for that loan. You understand what I mean? So I can tell you with all certainty that Sesan cannot be your son. And here is the punchline at the end, the bottom. I made sure, this is Akinyele speaking, I made sure I seemed angry enough to Dr. Bello, behaved the way I imagined a man would when discovering that a child wasn't his. I punched the wall, yelled, and slammed the door as I left the office. But all belied. Because he had already arranged
with his brother
Dotu. And he knew his brother had
the sickle cell
disease.
How did he know?
Well, I mean, he should have known.
Yeah.
Well,
that was why he wasn't surprised, because he knew that his brother, so it had to be his brother who was.
Yes, because
I mean, there are no direct pointers to it, but he must have known.
Yeah, I mean, he would have known, but I'm saying, did he know that before he made that whole arrangement? I think he later did that reflection that he didn't think of what could have gone wrong. He just knew that, okay, get my wife pregnant maybe every other year, so we have about 3 or 4 kids, and then that will be it. You know, but he did not consider what could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe he got to know that, okay, my brother is AS after they discovered the children were sickle cell, but not during the whole.
It was really confusing.
It was a bit, I mean, and it's complicated. It is life. It is how these things happen. It doesn't follow a linear. Sometimes it gets convoluted and it's all messed up.
Exactly.
But it was almost as though all of it started because family wanted a child.
Yes.
His mother wanted a grandchild and all of that. Can you just imagine if all those pressures were not there? They were in love.
Yes.
He loved Yejide. Can you imagine if it weren't there? But you look
And
at
they
the other
were
side.
okay.
She wasn't getting satisfaction from him, but she didn't even know.
She didn't even know. She didn't know what
didn't
the
even know.
other thing was.
Yeah.
But then it goes on and on. There's more of Yejide and Dotun still. And Dotun now loses his job because he engaged in something fraudulent at work. He was seeing a lady there, and then Odinechia, and then it happened. So now he was in a bit of a mess. He comes back to them in their house. I'm talking about Yejide and Akin. And then they continue. Of course, Yejide didn't know that Akin was already in the know that all these things were happening. And then you have the birth of Rotimi.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting description for Rotimi. Would you like to, I think I'll come to Marjorie on that one.
Okay.
As Rotimi is described as an abiku, a child that has come,
Yes. So
who
you
has
know.
come to die.
Yes. So even in our Ghanaian culture,
Yeah.
when they call it awumewu, when you keep having children who die in their infancy, they believe that maybe they have a mother in the spiritual world that keeps coming for them. So they will give you a name.
Or it's a child that keeps coming and going.
Yes,
and going.
maybe it's a child that keeps coming and going. So they will give you a name that would make your spiritual mother despise you. So you can have someone called Amabola or Abebrese or something like that, so that you are not appealing
I've heard
to
some
your
names,
spiritual.
but some people are named that. I don't want to mention those names before I start.
Yes, so her mother, Yejide's mother-in-law, says that, points out that this child could be an abiku, meaning that this child keeps going and coming. So they have to put certain marks on the body or give the baby a name that would make the baby stay.
Yeah.
So they gave the baby the name Rotimi, which means stay with me, so that she
basically
wouldn't.
playing on the title
Exactly.
of the book.
Yes.
Stay with me.
Yes.
Rotimi. It also reminds you of another literary figure, Ola Rotimi.
Ola Rotimi, yes.
So you then start, when I got there, I was asking, okay,
Yeah.
is that how he got to
But
stay?
I think Ola Rotimi is like fortune stay with me or something like that.
Okay.
Money stay with
So
me.
there may have been a difference
Yes.
in terms of the naming on that. But as we get closer to the end of this work, Rotimi is born, but then Marjorie, I want you to read a bit of page 20, and then I will let Angela continue from there, because
Page 20.
20.
220, I
Okay.
beg your pardon. Then we see Akinyele get into a rage, fly into a rage, and you're asking yourself, have you bitten more than you can chew? Let's start from when I walked in on the two of them.
Okay. When I walked in on the two of them, the rage that had stayed coiled around my throat since that first Saturday stirred again, tightening its hold. My eyes met Yejide's and I felt ashamed. The eyes that had once looked at me as though I was all she had in the world now stared at me with contempt. She glared at me as if I was an insect she would like to crush. She made no move to stop Dotun, just turned her head. I realized that while I thought my brother and I would trade places once in a while, truth was that from that first Saturday, he'd occupied vistas I'd never even glimpsed.
So, dude is basically saying, bruh, I invited you. It's like coming to someone's birthday party. and the cake is for the person, but you are eating more.
than
This is proper noche.
He
Not
hadn't
in full.
eaten, no, Ben, he had not even eaten more. He had not even tasted it. He said,
Places he had never
yeah,
gone.
he said he'd occupied vistas I'd never even glimpsed.
You know, when you get to that point, then you feel for Akin. You're like, hey, it's like inviting someone to a party and you are, what's going on?
But maybe at this point, maybe we can cut him some slack and
Cut him
because
some slack?
because it's our African society that has made this happen. You know how men feel about their potency in Africa.
Yeah.
It's like the lowest of the low for someone to think that you are not a man. Maybe in other parts of the world, they can be confident to share that with their partners. But here in Africa, to have your whole extended family, your business, knowing that you are not potent a man, they'll use it to insult you and you feel it
I
in your soul.
mean, you can catch 3 bullets on the most unrelated things. Like someone who rub it
So
in.
maybe at this point, maybe we can just a little bit of slack will do that.
Can you read further from there, Angela? I would like you to read a bit from there. Where did you end?
She ended at glimpse.
Okay, vistas I had never even glimpsed. I'd just like you to go on a bit all the way to page 221.
Okay. I waited until Dotun rolled off hair and saw me. He leapt off the bed. I took off my jacket, took my time, folded it, and then placed it on the bed. There was no ready weapon within reach, no pistol, no sharp knife waiting for me to grab. I marched towards Dotun armed with the only weapons I really needed, my raging anger, my clenched fists. Bros, Akin, wait, bros, Akin, don't let the devil use you.
He goes like, "Egbon me."
Please, don't be, wait, the devil's too. Dotun screamed, wrapping a bed sheet around his torso. I laughed, the sound clawing its way out of me, scratching my throat. Devil's too? Me? You bastard. I punched his mouth, his nose, his eyes. I felt his skin give way, heard his bones cracked, and saw blood flow from his nose. The pounding in my head intensified each time I rammed my fist into Dotun's face. He kept backing away from me until he tripped on the sheet he'd used to cover himself. He fell, hit his head against Yejide's bedside table on his way down, knocking her lamp over. He landed on his back and the bed sheet unwrapped itself from his body. I knelt over his bare belly and punched, his neck, his chest, the hands that tried to ward me off. There was blood on my hands, his blood, my blood.
Okay. And it goes on, but it gets bad because he even targets his manhood and he starts twisting it and doing all kinds of things.
I thought it would come off.
I mean, that portion was bad. I don't want us to get into that. You can grab a copy of the book and read it for yourself. But that was where I realized that Charlie Opana was hurt.
He was
he was really hurt. Dotun ends up in hospital. And what happens, Angela?
Well, I think the mom comes to Mommy. She comes to the hospital. And then he goes on to say, oh, he wishes Dotun was dead. But at that point when I read, I wish Dotun was dead, I was like, but you brought him into this. Why would you wish he's dead? Mm-hmm. So at that point, that's when I knew that, oh, Akin bit more than he could chew. Yeah.
Any reflections on that?
Yeah, he just thought that his brother was going to go along with the arrangement strictly.
Yeah.
So even when the second pregnancy came, when right after the baby was dead, the first child was dead. She was already pregnant, even at the burial. And
yes,
you see, he was surprised. Like that shock, that kind of laughter that came, he went back like he didn't know that there was some action even going on whilst there was a baby.
He thought he was monitoring the situation.
He didn't know. So that shock.
This was free for all.
It really hit him hard. So I think that that bitterness, it's all been there. He's not been able to address it. So he just unleashed all the devils in him in that situation. Yeah. He's to blame, really. I blame him for everything.
If you go to page 264, and this is how we'll wrap before we get into the rest of the segments. So, Akin, is it true that you can't? Are you impotent? I wish I could say he respected me enough to answer my question directly when I finally confronted him. He smiled and leaned back in his chair until he was staring at the ceiling. He did not say anything for a long time. I waited, watching as Rotimi climbed into his lap. On the television, the moderator was talking about the impact of the IMF's structural adjustment policy on Nigerian society. When did Dotun tell you? Akin finally asked, pulling Rotimi closer to himself. And then they go on with the conversation. How does this story end? Marjorie, starting with you. Does it have a fairy tale ending? Do things work out? Or is it a collapse?
Yeah, so it's a mixed feeling over there because the third child, Rotimi, also is sickle cell.
Yeah.
And that's a shock to me because I know a friend who has like...
You can't get it both ways. Doctor is good in one end, but on the other end, the sickling cell will... And all apologies to our brothers and sisters with sickling cell, not to denigrate.
I was hoping they would have at least one AA baby because I have a friend who has both parents AS, but all her siblings are all
It's
AA.
all about possibilities. It's like the lottery. You could be fortunate enough to even have maybe all of them, but if you are not, you could have all of them. With.
So the third child, Rotimi, is also sickle cell, and she goes into a crisis, and she Yejide couldn't take it because around that time she had traveled for a wedding with Iyabolu, and whilst away, she left the baby with the father, only to be told that there's a crisis. And I think at that time she had had enough. She couldn't go through the pain all over again, losing the first child, the second child, and now the third child. So she just left a note for Iyabolu to communicate to the husband that she's not coming back. She did try to reach her, and she left.
And then that takes us to, Angela, the start of the book, because that is where she's actually at the start of the book.
Yeah. So Akin writes a letter to her that his dad is dead. So he wants her to come to the funeral. So that's when the chapter tells us that should she go or not? Like she's kind of anticipating to see him, but at the same time too, she thinks about what she did. And then she's like, should I go? Should I not go? Should I go? Should I not go? And then she ends up going. But then the part that struck out to me was when she got to find out that Rotimi actually survived. And then she was like, Timmy, is that you? At that point, I felt like, I don't know if I felt...
Almost as though life hadn't been fair to
Yes, but then I felt like you could have waited because I even thought Rotimi wouldn't survive because at that point where she had the crisis, there was a shooting at that time. So he was trying to call her that, Yejide, do you have any first aid I can do? She just told her that, get her to the hospital, and she just ended the call. So at that point when she saw Timmy, I was like, okay, like, do you see, this is what you've done. Like, I see, you're lucky she didn't die. That's what was going through my head.
Okay, so I'll wrap with you guys on lessons learned. Are there any lessons you're taking away from this book? It's always perhaps my most important bit. Any lessons briefly on that?
Yeah, so for me, I realized that first of all, love and marriage and everything that comes with it is not easy.
Okay.
But then we are able to go, I'm not yet married, but then I believe that if you are able to open up and be transparent for the most part, even if you, I mean, for the important things, if you can be transparent, there's a lot of troubles that can be avoided because keeping skeletons in the cupboard, especially when you have vowed to be there for better, for worse, and then you have to put someone's son or daughter through a lot of difficulty just because you couldn't open up and be transparent, I think it's not fair.
Okay. Yeah. What lesson are you taking?
Just to add on to what she said, the honesty. I think it plays a big role in relationships and marriages. I'm not married yet, but then I know that it's better to be honest at the beginning so that you know what you are heading yourself into. Yes.
Okay, honesty. So this has been our review of Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. I'm going to leave you with my final segments, and I'll start with my reading quote for today. And it comes to us from Holbrook Jackson, who says, never put off till tomorrow the book you can read today. Never put off till tomorrow the book you can read today. Don't, maybe this is a bibliophobia. Our figure of speech for you today, homophone, H-O-M-O-P-H-O-N-E. What's a homophone? So it simply refers to words that are spelt differently yet have the same or very similar pronunciation. You can check it out online, but here are some examples. His death, which happened in his birth, birth, at 40 odd befell. They went and told the sexton, and the sexton told the bell. Yes, a bit of old English, but told the sexton, and the sexton told, that is T-O-L-L-E-D, the bell. So when you play with words like that, you're dealing with homophones. And I'm going to take you in my final bit to my poem for you today, which is the final bit I'll do, and then we're gone. It's from page 9 of this anthology, Voices in My Head by Kojo Bafo. And the title of the poem is Prayer. Prayer. Allow me a moment. Allow me this moment to speak my reality, to speak my truth, without your judgment, without your decided wisdom, without your clear idea of what my right and wrong should be. Allow me a moment. Allow me this moment. Allow me the twisted space between word and madness to find peace. And I feel that was the peace that Yejide was trying to find throughout this book, and Akin as well. Marjorie Ode, thank you for joining the conversation. Angela Adams, thank you for joining the conversation. Hope you had fun.
I did.
Promise.
Yes.
Anyway, so this has been our review of Stay With Me, Ayobami Adebayo. Next week, we shall come your way with another enthralling review. Thank you for watching. Do enjoy.